Networking site Twitter says it's increasing the size of the team that it has dealing with users who post abusive or threatening content. Yesterday, on Breakfast, former footballer Stan Collymore said the site needed to do more to combat abusive messages after he was targeted by internet trolls.
I've spoken numerous times to Staffordshire Police, other police forces, who are really banging their heads against a brick wall because they want to do stuff, but Twitter aren't furnishing them with the information. And all it's doing is providing a vacuum for anti-Semitic abuse, racist abuse, homophobic abuse, sexist abuse, anti-disability abuse, and it is quite frankly illegal. Age verification, proper verification tools, proper blocking tools, Twitter need to help.
Well, it appears this morning Stan Collymore has deleted his Twitter account overnight. He is, of course, not the first person to complain about online abuse.
In 2012, nearly 5,000 incidences of abuse on the main social media platforms were reported to the police in Britain.
Just over 650 people were charged, but while some people have received fines and prison sentences, there are no official figures for convictions.
There are 500 million tweets being sent every day. So, should more be done to police the network? Let's talk to Superintendent Paul Gianassi, who's responsible for hate crime policy at the Association of Chief Police Officers, and Vicky Beeching is a theologian who's conducting research into the ethics of the internet. Very good morning to you both.
Morning.
Well, let's start with the legal situation. I mean, part of the problem is it's very easy, of course, for individuals who are effectively anonymous to send what constitute, presumably, illegal threats to others. So if it's reported to the police, if something's racist, violent, what can the police practically do to track down the individual and work out if it is a crime?
Okay, I think things have changed in terms of communications massively over the last decade or so. But one of the principles that we work to is if it's illegal to do something on a street, if you wouldn't say something in front of a police officer on a street, don't say it on the internet, because courts appear to accept that the internet is a public space. Having said that, there are significant operational challenges because it's a global rather than a national network. So people can be posting in very distant parts of the world and being seen and being affecting people here. What we would say is if people are affected by it, report it to the people who are using this material. Don't say anything on the internet that you wouldn't say in front of a police officer, but to people who are affected by it, you have the same rights as if it happened to you in a supermarket.
And Superintendent, can you clarify a few things for me? Twitter have said that they're going to beef up their own staff and how they monitor things, and they say that these are, they will take action if they're told. Now, on a practical level, the police, if someone reports something on Twitter to the police, well, I mean, what happens next? Do your officers go and see Twitter staff, and how do they respond? Do they give you free access to all their material? Because the suggestion is that nothing much happens, even if things are reported to the police. And that's not a criticism of the police as such. It seems to be a kind of a wall. And does that happen in practice? What actually happens?
The real difference between social media is that where traditionally you had to have your own website or you had to get something through an editorial process for it to be heard, you can now post anonymously on somebody else's website. So the Web 2.0 allows that interactive nature, really changed the nature of material. And whereas before you had to go out and physically host it, so that presents an extra hurdle to the police for us to get the traditional data protection releases or court orders to the service providers to say, give us the subscriber details. We now have to go to that third party.
So hold on a minute. So just, I'm sorry, we'll come to you in a second. Just to help me with this one.
Okay. So
you get the report, yes. Someone saying they've got something. It's on Twitter.
Yes.
Your officers phone up Twitter headquarters and they say, we've got this, we need access to something. Is their response that we can't do this because there are issues around availability, or do they say, come in? I mean, what does happen?
Definitely that doesn't happen. They don't say it for that reason. They say it because the First Amendment to the American Constitution, where the headquarters is based, protects free speech, and it says that Congress will not pass laws to harm free speech. So they don't do it as a point of principle. They say if the subpoena from the US court arrives, we will give the information, and we can't get that.
So effectively, for your officers here in the UK, it's a full stop. It goes nowhere.
No, it's not, and that's a really important message that people need to know, that we do investigations, that we may have a nickname on our Twitter account, but we can probably find links to friends, we can probably find links to a Facebook account, which tend to be real name accounts. So people do leave themselves open to traditional investigation. The normal traditional route of getting through data protection releases and court orders isn't available to us, but traditional investigations certainly are.
Vicky, one of the things that people struggle with is, you know, it's already been alluded to. If you can't say it on the street to someone's face, you shouldn't be able to say it online. But of course, is it as serious online as it would be if you were threatened in the street? That's one of the things which people struggle with.
I think a lot of my research looks at the difference between virtual and physical, and people are very quick to dismiss virtual as though it doesn't matter. But what we really need to realise is that it's the same impact, the same emotional impact, really, whether you're reading it through a screen or not. And I look at consequences at the moment in my studies, and the fact that concrete consequences have been removed. So I can be rude to your face here, I see you react, I feel that concrete consequence, maybe you do something back. You're doing it through a screen, you lose that sense of concrete consequence, and it becomes very indirect, and you can actually feel like you're getting away with it, and there's no actual kind of comeback, because we lose all those social signs, don't we, of how the person's reacting. We need to get our heads around the fact that it's actually the same consequence for the person emotionally and really legally for us.
Although one of the ways that I think some people deal with getting abuse on the internet, and of course there are different levels of abuse, but perhaps with low-level abuse, is to think that this is somebody very powerless out there who feels anonymous, becomes very powerful by sending that message.
They do. Yeah.
And, you know, whereas if you're in the street with someone who's literally physically threatening you, that can
anonymity
feel
is a really big part of this. And one of the things I've been keen to defend over the last few days with all of the stuff with Stan and others who've been abused is that anonymity in itself is not bad. Anonymity can actually accomplish a great deal of good online. If you're a political journalist in an oppressed nation, anonymity on social media gives you the opportunity to speak out, let your voice be heard in a way it wouldn't otherwise. Or if you're a victim of domestic violence, you can cry for help, you can find a community. So anonymity is not the problem, and people are often quite quick to damn that and say that's the issue here. You know, we're hiding behind screens. As soon as we're anonymous, we can get away with stuff, but we can't actually just blame the anonymity. It's the manner in which we use that anonymity.
And Superintendent, can I just ask very briefly, how much confidence can people have that if they have been a victim, to come to the police? Because that's one of the issues. People do need to come to you in the first place and have confidence something will happen.
Well, we've set up a website called True Vision, and people on True Vision can find advice about what they can do, as well as reporting to police. It tells them how they can approach people like Twitter and make complaints. It gives them opportunities to find out who's hosting material themselves, but it also allows them to report online, and we've got processes and protocols about whether that gets investigated, in the case of Stan Collymore, by a local force and a traditional investigation, or whether it's dealt with through linking and interacting with the companies themselves. But all the advice is there, and I'd urge people that if they're affected by this, they don't have to tolerate it, and True Vision is there to provide them the advice and the route in to get help.
All right, thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, time now, 7:48.
Twitter wouldn't put anyone up to speak to us on breakfast this morning. They did send us a statement. This is what it said. Direct, targeted abuse and specific threats of violence are against our rules. If you can let us know if you see abusive tweets by using the report tweet button or through online forms. And it continues, our trust and safety team works 24 hours a day to respond to reports. We're increasing the size of this team to make our response time even faster.
Yes, they go on to say we also have a clear process for working with the police, are in ongoing communication with relevant UK police forces to make sure they are aware of our policies.
I think just as someone who's looking at the ethics, do you think that blocking or ignoring are the best tactics?
It's really tricky. I've been the victim of abuse myself, both when I lived in California when the technology was quite young and recently in the last year. I've actually moved from thinking it's better to ignore it to actually retweeting it. And I know some people say that gives kind of, you know, prominence to the trolls, but for me it's about bringing it out of the secret, hidden kind of suffering in silence and saying this is what's happening. And when we do that, actually peer control comes in and other people can stand up for you, and we can actually begin to look out for each other online.
And have you ever had to report anything?
I have, yes. The police were involved in America, and in the UK I haven't had to go that far, but it's still been very sort of vulgar, lewd threats, and it does make you feel afraid to go online, but I have no intention of backing down. It's a medium I'm very passionate about.
Thank you.